Okay, everybody can hear me okay. You guys can see my screen all right. No complaints for functioning of Zoom. I'm going to take that as a no. Speak up if you guys are having a hard time following what I'm doing, okay? Um, all right, so this is our second lab, which is crazy because we're here in the start of February, but we had Martin Luther King Day, week 2, and then we had a snow day. I mean, granted, on that snow day, we probably could have made it in. All right, the roads weren't too bad, but they canceled class. So today we're going to talk about enterprise budgeting. We're going to set the stage for uh, more of your case studies things. Um, we're going to go through a couple of examples on using that cattle val calculator and the new pass stalker planner calculator as well. And you guys will have a lab assignment due. It's your first one. So I think there's a total of 5 lab assignments. They're 40 points each. And uh, so that's 200 points total. So 20% of your grade are from these lab assignments. So I will post that lab assignment on Canvas right after we finish here. And I'm going to give you guys until lab next week. So you're going to have 7 days to complete that lab assignment. So when you're doing the lab assignment, you're going to take these snipping, you're going to use this snipping tool. Mac users, it could be something different, right? I'm not exactly sure how a Mac snipping tool works, but I know they do have a screen grab function that you can use. If you don't know how to do it, Google it. If you can't Google it, uh, come find me and we can figure it out together. But basically, I'm going to have you take screen grabs of different outputs and upload it into Microsoft Word. And that is the document that you're going to upload. Okay. Any questions on that? All right. Guessing not. Okay. So you're going to use for this first lab assignment the cattle val calculator. So if you guys want to follow along during the lab, which I recommend, we got somebody in chat. For Mac, you screenshot with Command Shift 3. That's great to know. Thanks for sharing that, Gianna. Okay, so open your cattle val calculator. It should be uploaded on Canvas in your modules under course software. Okay, I've got mine open here. So it should look like this. And we looked at this in class, gosh, that's probably 2 weeks ago now. This first scenario, we're going to compare steers versus bulls again. Okay. So you can follow this link. Okay. It's going to take you to sales of feeder cattle are reported at local auctions. Information is collected and reports are listed by state. So for your homework, you're going to choose a auction market from some other location, and you're going to compare it to Oklahoma City National Stockyards. Okay. But for these examples, we're going to go to Oklahoma, Oklahoma City National Stockyards, feeder cattle auction, Monday. Okay. And so this is from today. This is from literally Monday, February 2nd. Okay. So this is going to be a little different than what we looked at before. Hopefully the trends are still kind of the same. Okay. All right. So let's enter in the available prices for steers versus heifers, and then we'll do steers versus bulls. And then within steers, we'll look at maybe typical versus fleshy if there's enough observations. Okay. Doesn't look like there will be, but we can look at that. All right. So here we have steers, medium and large frames. We're going to do steers versus heifers. So first one, we're only going to take these ones that don't have a classification out here on the right. Okay. So if you guys remember this fancy designation, a 497 pound animal that is designated as fancy will bring in more money than a 479-pound animal who does not have that designation. Okay. Uh, Thin flesh will also receive a little bit of a premium relative relative to the non-designated groups of animals. They receive a little bit of a premium because, and you can compare here. So here's a 676 group. This group here weighed 676, was not designated as thin fleshed, compared to this group here that weighed 660, that was designated as thin fleshed, received basically a $36 premium. That's $36 per hundredweight premium over this typical. And they do that because this thin flesh designation is going to be more indicative of compensatory gain. But uh, that's neither here nor there. What did I do? Somehow I said I wanted to edit that, but here we go. All right. So let's start entering these prices here. So here we have a 330-pound group, 382, 426, 479, 528, 587, 622, 676, 719. And let's start getting some of these heavier ones. So let's go 921, 991, 1024. Okay. Is anybody following along? Does anybody need more time to open up the program? Guessing not. Okay. If you guys need me to slow down or do anything different, just speak up. All right. So this 330 way average price was 654.98. So this 382 was 609.27. 426 was 581.44. 479 was 512.45. 528 was 511.09. 587 was 446.49. 446.49. 622 was 427.57. 676, 400.77. 719 was 384.1. So 920, 338.72. 991 was 332.5. And then 1024 is 306.43. Okay. Chart design, quick layout. Okay, I just entered this regression curve. So whenever you have a graph in Excel, excuse me, I've been having a little cough. You can go to chart design, you can do quick layout, and then you can hit this button here, and this inputs the regression equation and the R squared value. Okay. All right, so now if I scroll down here to heifers, medium, and large ones, okay, so we have a 330, a 394, 419, 478, 527. So this is a good example. Here we have a 527 heifer group that was designated as fancy compared to a group that averaged 527 that was just typical. And you can see that this fancy group got a $32 per hundredweight premium relative to this typical non-classified group. So fancy will typically receive a premium. Then here we have this designation of fleshy, right? So this group of fleshy heifers weighed 639. Okay. They brought $339 per hundredweight. So they brought 30, what is that? 21, $22 per hundredweight less than this group that weighed 673, right? That did not have that fleshy designation. So groups that are designated as fleshy typically will receive a pretty substantial discount relative to other groups of cattle. Does that make sense, everybody? And it's because those fleshy groups are going to be fatter at when they get placed into a feedlot or into their stocker system, and fatter cattle are going to perform less and have lower feed conversion, so they're going to have higher cost of gain, and so it's going to take more money to take those animals through finish. Okay, so 527, here's 581, 619, 673, 710, 776, 875, 937. Here, I messed this one up. What is that? 673. Okay. So that price of this first group was 580, 531.1, 491.23, 460.43, 417.07, 409.63, 389.24, 361.26, 347.98, 776 was 337.74, 306, 291. Okay. What do we notice about this line with the steers data versus this line with the heifers? Anybody want to speak up? It's not a trick question, guys. Will someone please speak up? You're going to make me not want to do lectures or labs on Zoom ever again.
Heifers are way lower.
Heifers are lower, but you will notice that the slope is not that much different, right? So the slope of this regression line gives you an indication of basically value of gain, right? So this is change in value of that animal over pounds. So heifers are lower, but it's what you would call like a mean bias shift, right? Instead of a scale shift. So the slopes are more parallel, but it's really that intercept that gets shifted down. So pretty much at all weights, heifers receive a similar discount. Does that make sense? Okay. And so here is that dollar per hundredweight premium chart that we've seen this before. So this is the steer premium over heifers. And so this is based off of the actual value of steers versus the value of heifers in dollars per head. And that difference, so that premium that steers receive, kind of has a diminishing return, right? Because those slopes, that slope change of dollar per hundredweight does not change that drastically. So steers will receive a much greater premium relative to heifers at lower body weights, and that premium will diminish as those animals get heavier. Does that make sense, everybody? We'll take that as a yes. Okay. All right. So here we can do steers versus bulls. So I'm just going to copy this steer from this sheet over here. And you'll see that steers popped up. If I bring this back over here, we'll scroll down on this sheet. Here's our bulls, medium and large ones. We're going to enter these prices, but we're going to skip this one here that are designated as unweaned. Okay. So here we had average weight of whoops, 437. Skip that 420, so 487. 626, 693. Okay. 455, 495, 383.48, and 361. Okay. So I haven't plotted this one before, but this group of bulls that averaged 487 that brought 495, you look at them on this plot, and that's a pretty clear outlier, honestly. So it's much higher than that average discount that bulls received from this lot of animals. And so that really kind of tells to me that maybe whoever bought these groups, they pretty much paid for what you could have bought steers at that same body weight for. So we don't know why that group was overbought like that, but they sure, definitely uh, uh, overpaid for that relative to what they should have. Okay. So 437, 455, 487, 626, 693, 455, 495, 383.48, and 361. Okay. So if you remember from our previous lecture, we saw an increasing discount of bulls relative to steers in, I guess it would have been 2 weeks ago when we looked at the Oklahoma City National Stockyards report. And now we're kind of seeing a diminishing premium for steers over bulls. So I can't necessarily explain that. You should see that bulls receive a greater discount relative to steers as they get heavier because of what we talked about maybe last Tuesday, that their response to castration is greater, so they're going to have lower average daily gain. They're going to have more incidents of death loss and morbidity. So that discount should be heavier. I don't exactly know why it wasn't as great as what I've seen in previous examples. So I can't explain that. It's just a uniqueness of uh, this one auction report. But we're not going to change anything there. Let's see. Here we really only have one class that's designated as fleshy, so I don't know if we'll worry about that. And this is where you'll do the assignment for your lab, where you'll have a stockyard one. So the stockyard one you'll set as Oklahoma City National Stockyards. And it'll basically be these steers here, right? And then for stockyard two, you'll go and find a new report from some other stockyard. So I've had people use Wildorado. I've had people use the one that's here in Bryan. You just go into that AMS report, which you'll find the link in that PowerPoint here, and find some other stockyards, and then compare the prices that they saw in their most nearest date report. They won't exactly align up with the sixth, or excuse me, today, the second. But you can just get whatever you can that's closest to make that comparison. Okay. And you'll basically send me this and justify why you saw that discount or premium for that one stockyard over Oklahoma City National Stockyards. Okay. So we're skipping this one because there's only one designation of fleshy in this last report. But in essence, you'll see a discount for cattle that are designated as fleshy relative to typical or uh, not designated. Okay. Okay. So we've already done this, so I won't have you guys do it, but make sure you know how this program works because you're going to need to use it in your uh, first first assignment. Does anybody have any questions on the cattle val program? You have until next week to do the assignment. If you run into a problem and you can't figure it out, and then come find me and we'll work through it together. Okay. So now we're going to look at the new pass stalker planner and we're going to go through two different scenarios. Okay. We're going to say first, in this first one, we're going to buy 500-pound steers and we're going to use this price that was generated from the cattle val program. Okay. And then the rest of this data is based off that Beck 2025 paper. So the steers gain 2.4 pounds per day. We're going to graze them on winter wheat. We're going to start them November 30th. They're going to be done. Oops. Okay. Um, and then we're going to pull them on May 15th. So we graze them for 166 days. So some of these I made assumptions on. So for just this example, we're going to say we have 33% equity in the cattle. So we borrowed 67% of the capital to buy the cattle. Okay. We also borrowed all the operating capital. All right. So just for the scenario, we have a 6.5% interest rate. We're getting charged to lease the pasture based off of dollars per pound per day. And so the rate we're running with is pretty, I think it'd be pretty common to what you're seeing people charge today. It's hard to find these numbers, but my best guess is people are charging somewhere around 75 cents per pound per day. Um, so if you take average daily gain and you multiply it by 0.75, they'll tell you what the charge is per day. All right. So this group of animals, we're assigning $8.30 per head in BRD treatment costs. So this would be kind of indicative of a scenario where there's 50% first pulls, 25% second pulls, and then 12.5% third pulls. So in this scenario, we did not have a fourth uh, pull for BRD. Then we have $20 per head for other receiving drugs. So that'll be your vaccine program, your treatment against gastrointestinal parasites, any porons that you're using for external parasites, etc. This group of animals, these steers had 0.84% death loss. We're going to assign a labor cost of 13 cents per head per day. Keep moving it. So that's assuming that we take 4 hours to check 200 head, um, and then 50 cents per head per day over a 21-day receiving period. And then we're assigning 5 cents per head per day while they're on pasture. Then we got to pay our $1 bill to the checkoff. Um, we're assigning a $25 per head per day in feed costs. So this could be, whatever supplement we're providing the cattle and any mineral supplements we're giving the animals. And we'll talk more about those types of feeding programs, so supplementing cattle on pasture later. And then we have the same interest rate for our operating capital. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this? Okay. If you do, speak up. Um, I'm going to open up our new past stalker planner. I'm going to save a copy. I'm going to save this as steers. Okay. So let's say 11-30-2025. That's when we started. So they weighed 500 pounds. Okay. We have 166 days on pasture. So now I go here to this cattle val calculator. All right. And we bought them at 500 pounds. So I'm going to take this value from this table here. So the average group of animals that were bought from this week. So today's auction market at Oklahoma City National Stockyards for a 5 weight would have been $500.81 per hundredweight. Okay, so I'm going to enter that here. So this is cattle cost. So initial cattle purchase cost per hundredweight goes into this cell. So the cost of that animal is 500 times 500 divided by 100. So that animal cost me $2,500 to purchase. We pastured it for 166. So here I could enter this. So if I say I want to have 33% equity, I can go 0.33 times this cell. So that's at $826.34 per head that I'm borrowing. Our interest rate was 6.5%. So here I can set whether we're going to use which pasture pricing option we're going to use. For this class, we're always going to use this zero option. So that's a cost per pound of gain basis. So you're not going to change this for this class, but you could change it if you wanted to operate based off of some dollar per hundredweight of cattle per month. So if you wanted to just charge, like if someone was leasing pasture for like a cow calf herd, they may want to do it, so many dollars per pound per month basis. But for stocker cattle, for growing cattle, it's mostly done on a per pound of gain basis. Okay. So we're not going to change this in this class, but our pasture cost option is 75 cents per pound of gain. Okay. Our medical cost. So that's really this cost of dollars per head of receiving drugs plus this $8.30 for BRD treatment. So that is 28.30. Okay. Our death loss percent is 0.84. Okay. We're not assigning a value for pickup or management. Our labor cost per head per day, we said was going to be 0.13, so 13 cents per head. $1 for the beef checkoff. We're not hedging or doing any options. We're not spending any extra money on marketing. We're not going to consider freight costs for this one. Our feed cost we said was $25 per head. Uh, Operating capital interest. So we said we're going to borrow all of our operating costs at 6.5%. Okay. So this spreadsheet now calculates how many dollars per uh, it total. So, and this is a dollar per head basis here. And then this puts it on a daily basis. So this column here is this column, this total divided by the dollars or the days pastured. So, for example, cattle interest cost is on a daily basis is $50 divided by 166. So that's where they get that 30 cents. So total cost to have one animal go through this stalker system, operating cost, not including purchase price, okay, is $150 per head. Okay. To purchase that animal, it costs us $2,500 per head. Okay. We said this animal is going to gain 2.4 pounds per day. Okay. So total pounds gained, it goes 2.4 times 166 is 398.4. So 500, which is our purchase weight, plus this 398 pounds gained is 898 pounds. So this is a unique thing to this program is we can base our selling price off of two different options. We're going to base it off of this expected. Okay. So we're going to take this cattle val program. Remember, the slope of this line times 100 is our expected value of gain. Okay. So 1.4089 times 100 is $140.89. So we'll put that there. Okay. And then it calculates the price for each of these given body weights based off of a given or expected price for a 750-pound animal and that value of gain we enter here. Okay, so 750-pound animal should have been $380.84. Whoops. So 380.84. Okay. So whenever I enter in this expected value gain and I enter in this dollar per hundredweight for a 750-pound animal, which I pull from this table here, okay, it already says, okay, based off this scenario, if I were to sell a 400-pound animal, they would bring this $590.81. If I were to sell a 1,000-pound animal, they would get or bring $320.85. So it bases this selling price off of this table here. So just to say it again, if we want to use this spreadsheet to calculate our expected sell price, we need to enter in our value of gain, okay, which we have here, $140.89, which we can get from here, which is off the cattle val, which is based off of the slope, okay, of that line. And then we need to enter in this average dollar per hundredweight price for a 750-pound animal, which is based off of, again, this regression line for steers. Do we have any questions? Is anybody following along? Cool. I'm seeing thumbs up. Okay. Now, here's an important caveat. Okay. This stalker planner is a planner, right? So we aren't, uh, uh, we can't read a crystal ball and say exactly what a 9 weight is going to bring in uh, when we're going to sell them. May, right? We don't know that. So this value of gain is basically what value of gain we expect these animals to bring. In this scenario, we're basing that expected value of gain off of the value of gain we're seeing in steers that are sold on the same day. Okay. So that's not very realistic, right? But it's kind of the best we can do in this class kind of scenario. So we're going to run with it. What other people may put here, uh, a futures contract plus or minus basis um, to get this 750-pound feeder price, right? And they may calculate their expected value of gain off of what they purchased that animal for and that futures, what the futures contracts for May are saying they're going to bring. Okay, so that's probably the most common. For simplicity's sake, we're just going to use this value of gain that we're pulling out of this cattle val spreadsheet. Okay. All right. So we have our projected daily gain here. We put in our expected value gain here based off of this table here in our cattle val, 380.84 for a 750-pound animal. That is used to calculate our selling price. Under this scenario, we are expecting to make $120 per head. Okay. Which I think that's maybe a little low compared to what a lot of people would be expecting to make in today's climate. However, I was told growing up that if you're making $100 per head, you're doing really good. So I think this scenario is probably pretty realistic. There's still some question marks around this break-even selling price, but I think that if you're making over $100 per head over the very long term of the 10 years, you're probably doing really well as a stalker producer. Okay. So this next example, I'm going to save a copy. I'm going to call this bulls. Okay. So I'm going to open that one back up. And where did that go? Oh, lab. Okay, I don't know where that's saving. Stalker 2026 course software. Okay, I'll have to clean that up later. Okay, so here's our stairs that we just did. Now we're going to run through a scenario based off that Beck 2025 paper where we purchase steer or bulls, and we're going to use the prices that are relevant based off today's auction market. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to have the cattle valve pulled up here. Okay. So what we need to change. So in this scenario, we're going to buy a 500-pound bull. So a 500-pound bull was worth how much? 446.87. Okay. 446.87. 500-pound bull. They're pastured for 166 days. So the steer cost us $2,500 to purchase. This group of bulls cost us $2,200 to purchase. Okay. So the amount of money we're putting in is going to decrease because we're still only going to put down 33%. Interest rates, we're not changing. Pasture lease costs, we're not changing. So these bulls, let's see here. Okay. So in that bull scenario from that Beck 2025 paper, they had 63% uh, more BRD treatment cost than uh, cattle that were purchased as steers. And they also had an increased BRD morbidity, so and mortality. Okay, so in this instance, we're going to go from 28.30 to 33.17. Our death loss went from 0.84 to 2.75. We're going to keep our same labor cost, dollar per hundredweight cost, feed cost, and our interest rate's not changing. Um, and then these animals, these bulls in that study, they had 25% less average daily gain during receiving. So we're going to go from 2.4 to 2 pounds per day. Okay. Now, um, do you think we're going to change this value of gain? Anyone want to guess? Do you think we're going to change this 380 to maybe what a 750-pound bull would cost? What about this expected value of gain? Does anybody want to guess? John, you came off mute. You want to guess?
Well, I was just thinking, like, if you're buying them as bulls, you're not going to leave them as bulls the whole time, I wouldn't think.
Exactly. So that's part of that stalker operation being able to upgrade cattle, right? So, yes, in this scenario, we're going to castrate these bulls. That effect of castration is already being captured under this reduced projected average daily gain, this increased cost of medicine, and then this increased death loss. So that value of gain is not going to change. And then this dollar per hundredweight that we would sell a 750-pound steer at is also not going to change. Okay. So if we look at this, let me find this. Okay. This is the steers scenario that we just pulled together. Okay. All right. So if we bought them as steers, we paid $500 per hundredweight. If we bought them as bulls, we bought them at $446 per hundredweight. So is this discount we're seeing in the market today enough to offset a lower average daily gain, an increased medicine cost, and an increased death loss? So with this stalker planner and data that we're pulling from previously published papers, we can start to kind of infer this. Does that make sense to you guys? So the big question becomes, well, one, these steers, we only made $120 per head. These bulls, we almost made $300 per head, which is crazy, right? I mean, that's a huge difference. So if we bought these groups of bulls, we're much better off than if we bought these groups of steers, even with an increased death loss, increased medicine cost, and a lower average daily gain. So that must mean that this discount, so 500.81, 500.81 minus 446.87. So that's a $53.94 per hundredweight discount for these groups of per hundredweight for these groups of bulls relative to these groups of steers. Okay. So it's obvious that this discount is more than enough to offset the increased costs associated with poorer performance, increased mortality for these bulls. I will tell you from this scenario we did last year, this was not the case. You made more money if you bought bulls relative to steers. Okay. So I think this would tell you as a producer, it's something you need to kind of keep an eye on where your bargain is at a given time. And so if you have an expected death loss, expected medicine cost, and expected average daily gain for a group of bulls compared to a group of steers, you can look at these auction market reports that are being released, and then make a judgment year to year on which type of animal would have a value. Does that make sense? I'm going to guess so. I'm seeing thumbs up. Okay. So the question becomes, excuse me. Okay. The question is, what discount for bulls would we have where we would break even relative to paying for steers? So, at what discount for bulls would we provide equal net returns? So, we can calculate that if we set the profit we want to see for this bull scenario as the steer profit. We can calculate the bull return. So, that's sell weight times sell price minus 500. That's the 500-pound purchase weight. And this is what we want to know. So this is the variable we want to know is dollars per hundredweight minus our total operating costs. And then we can just solve for this dollar per hundredweight. So in this example, we have steers brought in net return of, I think this is bulls. Okay. Where'd it go? Okay. Come on. Okay, there we go. And where did that go? Right here. Okay. So 120.21. We're going to set that equal to, so our bull return. So we're selling them at 832, 832 times. We're selling them at 357.71. You guys still there? Can you hear me? My computer just told me the internet was unstable, so jump in if you can't hear me. And so this is dollars per hundredweight. And so we need to take this, we need to divide that by 100, okay? Minus 500 times, we'll just say Y as a whatever random variable, minus our total operating cost for bowls now was 448.73, 448.73. So 832, 832 times 357.71 divided by 100. Okay, so this is 120.21 minus 2976.15 plus 448.73. All of this divided by 100 or 500 is equal to our dollar per hundredweight. Hopefully this works out. 120.21. Oh, this is a negative 500. So 120.21 minus 2976.15 plus 448.73 is a negative 200 or $2,407.21 divided by a negative 500. Okay, so our break even purchase price for steers versus or for bulls relative to steers is equal to $481.44. Okay. So for us to have broken even buying these bulls relative to buying a group of steers, we could have purchased those bulls for $481.44. Okay. We bought those steers for five, what was it? Oh, this is the feedlot one. This is bulls. This is steers. We bought those steers for $500.81. So this is where it's kind of interesting. 500.81 minus 481.44. We would have needed to break even to have purchased those bulls at a $19.37 per hundredweight discount relative to steers. Okay. Does everybody follow that?
So, do we only need to find two values from the two different sheets, or what values did we need to find again from the two sheets?
So I'm not going to test you guys on this math here, but I just kind of wanted to make the point that you can calculate what purchase discount you needed to have for steers or for to purchase bulls relative to steers and to break even. So I guess my main thing is I don't want you guys to look at these differences in uh, these stalker budgets. If we would have purchased steers and said we would have only made $120 per hundredweight, or no, excuse me, $120 per head for steers compared to buying these bulls, we would have made $300 per head. Okay, I don't want you to think that this is always going to be the case. Okay, for whatever reason in the market, bulls are receiving a much greater discount today than what you need to break even between the two sources. So this data, and it was the same thing for the previous Oklahoma City National Stockyards, would show that today you are better off buying steers at those great or bulls, buying bulls at that great of a discount, you will make more money than if you were to buy steers for whatever reason. I don't know why. But here, I just wanted to calculate, okay, what type of a discount would we need in purchase price for bulls versus steers for the two scenarios to break even? And it's $19.37 per hundredweight. So I'm just going to pull up this paper real quick just to help make a point. So bear with me. So this is that Beck 2025 paper. Okay. So to have equal net returns at the end of grazing, they need to have a 43 or 43 cent per kilogram discount for bulls. Okay. Based off the scenario we made. So 0.43, we divide that by 2.205. That's $19.5 per hundredweight discount that would need to break even for these bulls versus steers. So this 43 cents per kilogram is really $19.50 per hundredweight, which is almost identical to what we just saw in the scenario we went through right now, right? Does that make sense to you guys? Am I rambling too much? Does anyone want to speak up? Someone other than John and Reagan, maybe?
It makes sense.
Okay, cool. So the scenario we just went through aligns directly with that paper that me and my dad published a year ago, which should make a lot of sense, right? Because a lot of the data I use to plug into these budget spreadsheets were from that paper. But the thing that's really interesting to me, and this is not what we saw when we went through this exercise last year, bulls are receiving a much greater discount than what they need to break even relative to steers. So if you were to purchase a group of bulls and you saw the same health outcomes as we did in that Beck 2025 paper, you would make more money than if you were to buy steers today. And that is not what we saw last year. So it's just, I don't know, it's kind of exciting to me. So that was a big surprise to me. It is not stagnant. Last year when we went through this exercise, you would have lost money if you would have bought bulls. Today, you're making a lot more money, like $180 per head more money. So almost double what you were making if you bought those steers. Okay. All right. So, excuse me. Briefly, I'm going to go over two different scenarios here, two different grazing scenarios. And some of you guys may have been assigned this in your case study, and you're probably wondering what in the heck is that means intensive early stocking versus season long stocking. Okay. We're going to go over that a lot more detail in subsequent lectures, but just to kind of set the stage for this budgeting exercise we're going to do, intensive early stocking and season long stocking are two very common grazing management practices for summer perennial pasture grazing systems. Okay. So under intensive early stocking, we have two times or even more, even three times the number of animals per land area relative to a season long stocking. But we do that for half the duration. Okay. So in this scenario, we're going to purchase animals in April. We're going to sell them in July. Okay. You will have near equal body weight gain per acre as you do in the season long stocking. Okay. Even though you have half the amount of time grazing, you've got double the amount of animals grazing. So you have near equal the amount of body weight gain per acre across these two systems. Importantly, you increase stocking rate, so you increase the number of animals that are on a given area of land, you're going to have lower body weight gain per head in the intensive early stocking. Okay. So you're going to have lower body weight per head, but you're going to have twice the number of animals on a given area. So your average daily gain per head is going to be lower, but your body weight gain per area is going to be much higher. Okay. So compare that to season long. You're going to have a lower stocking density. So number of animals per head per acre. You're going to have the same stocking rate. So by stocking rate, that is number of animals per acre over a given period of time. So in this case, we're going to say year. Okay. You're going to have greater body weight gain per head under the season long scenario. However, typically you're going to have uh, a lower average daily gain over the entire season. Okay. So it's going to be greater at some time points and it's going to be less at other time points. So in season long stocking, you'll see greater average daily gain in the early season and then lower average daily gain in the later season as those animals get heavier, but also as that forage matures and becomes less digestible. Okay. Um, okay. All right. So we're going to go through this scenario. In fact, I want you guys to kind of maybe play around with this. Um, I'll do this one, and I'm going to have you guys do this other one. Okay. So I'm going to save a new one. Oops. Okay. So this is intensive early stocking. I'm just going to say IES. Okay. All right. This instance, we're going to buy a 600-pound animal. We're going to graze them for 140 days. 600 pounds going to have a different body weight. So I'm going to open this value. 600 pounds is going to be 440.83. So $440.83 per hundredweight. Okay. All right. So we're going to change our interest rate to 7. They're going to gain 1.6 pounds per day over 140 days. Going to keep our rent is going to be 0.65 cents per pound of gain. We're going to keep that 28.30 for drug costs, 0.8% death loss. We'll keep that same, 25, and then 7% operating capital. Okay. So this expected value gain is not changing. This dollar per hundredweight for a 750-pound animal that we got from the cattle val calculator is not changing. So in this scenario, we are going to make $30 per head only. Okay. So this is a season-long stocking scenario. Okay. Here we have slide 10. Whoops. Okay, so I did this one, slide 9. So I'm going to have you guys try to do this intensive early stocking scenario. So I should change this to season-long stocking. Okay. Do you guys have the program open? Have you been following along? Okay, cool. All right, so look at this slide here, this slide 8, and then change these values that are different into the new pass stalkers, and let's see what you get. What time does lab end? Anybody remember?
I think
At
it's three.
3. Okay. So we got about 30 minutes. We'll do this real quick. We'll go over a feedlot budget and then what you guys will use for your case study too. Um, and then we'll call it a day. So don't really have a good place to put you guys where I'm sharing my screen. But maybe just come on mute and tell me when you're done and you want to tell me what your net return is per head. So this profit per head.
For the weight at 750, do you want us to use what we used for the last one too?
Yes. Yep.
Can you tell me what that was again?
You got it. All right. So we'll go here to this cattle val calculator here where we pulled these steers values. We're going to come here down to this. Here we have a 750. Says 380.84. And then use that same value of gain from the cattle val. This 140.89.
You said one.
Any other questions? Is anyone still working on it? Everybody is done?
I'm still working on it.
Okay.
Are there only two things we need to fill out for the bottom part of the Excel sheet? The expected value of gain and then the dollar per at
So,
750? Just
yep,
those two things.
this and
Okay.
this. Don't change this option.
Okay.
This would change how it's calculating the sell price. And then don't worry about changing any of these for now. Is anybody got any questions with the Excel sheet? Is anybody Excel like remedial in Excel? Or does everybody have a good grasp on how to use Excel?
I only had a question, is not with pertaining to like what we've gone over, but if we
Yep.
keep on using the Excel for like practice and whatnot, and we have any questions, do we just email you or is that the
Yeah.
best way to get in touch?
Yep. Email me.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. Yes, sir. Sounds good.
Anybody is welcome to swing by my office at any time, but if they want to guarantee I'll be there, I need a meeting invite.
All right,
Um, yeah, but swing by if you want, but email me and set a meeting time and send a meeting invite, and that'll guarantee I'll be there. If it's not on my calendar, I can't promise that I'll remember.
perfect. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hey, you betcha, Connor. Okay. Are you guys ready for me to enter in how I think it should be? And you can kind of compare and see what you changed. You guys
Yes.
want to do that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I had entered in, I think, this season long stocking. Okay. So I need to open up this one I named intensive early stocking. Here we go. All right. Our purchase price is not changing. It's still that 440.83. Purchase weight's not changing. It's still 600. The difference is we are now stocking him for half the time, so 70 days. Okay. Interest rate staying the same at 7%. So I'm not changing that. Still, I don't know why I changed that to 50 cents per pound a gain, but that's where you would change that. Make sure I actually did that. Yep. Okay. 50 cents per pound a gain. Not sure why I did that. Kept the same death loss, kept the same medical cost. $25, $7. So, and then in this instance, we're going to gain 2.2 pounds per day. Okay. So, takeaway here is this what you guys got?
Yes.
38.44. Did anybody not get that?
I did not get that. Is there any chance you could go to like a bigger image on your Excel there?
Yep. Can you see that better?
A little bit, yep.
Okay. So kept the same purchase price, 440.83. Same purchase weight, 600. So the same cattle cost, dollars per head was the same. Changed this day's pastured to the 70. It was at 140, but for an intensive early stocking, it's twice the number of animals for half the time. Okay.
Did you change the percent equity? Because I think that's where my number's different.
I didn't. I kept it at that 33%. So
Okay.
0.33 times this. I
Is
think
it
I
not
kept
is
the
it not
same
is it not
interest.
25?
What's that?
I thought it was 25. That might be my mistake.
Did it say? Um, okay, 25%. Okay. Yep. Okay. So if you caught that, did you get 35.56?
Yes.
Okay. So this was the season long. So change that to 25. Okay. I kind of want to keep, I know it didn't say this in the uh, PowerPoint, but I want to keep the pasture cost the same. 0.16. Okay. So if you change that, John, did you end up with that $12.15 per head?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Compared to this one, 0.25, 7. Okay. 65, 28, 30. Same death loss, 13. Okay. Compared to this season long stocking, you made $24.35. So the big difference is in the number ahead that you can run, right? So in this example, if we had in our season long scenario 50 in our uh, intensive early stocking, we can run double the stocking rate at 100. So you actually made um, so that total profit for your group is this profit per head times uh, total number ahead here. Okay. So for half the time, your total difference between these two scenarios was $2.50, right? So you made as much money in half the amount of time, right? And you can give your pasture chance to rest for half of the growing season. Big point, I guess I'm trying to drive home, and we'll talk about it more in depth, is the value of intensive early stalking. You have very similar net returns per acre, but uh, half the time you can give your pasture rest for half of the growing season. You have more fuel buildup for burning in the spring and other things, which we'll talk about later. So this was just another uh, budgeting exercise for you guys.
What's the downside to it if it makes about the same amount and it uses half the time? Why would they choose season long instead?
To be honest, I think because they feel wrong not having cattle managing in their landscape for half the year. If I'm being just totally frank, these scenarios are ran mostly in like the Flint Hills of Kansas and eastern Oklahoma, where they have tall grass prairie, um, and intensive early stalking, for all intents and purposes, is far superior in the grand scheme of things. But there's still that human aspect behind it, right? Where you're going to tell a producer or cattleman that he can't manage cattle for half of his growing season. It's just not going to sound right to him. Does that make sense?
Yes. Are there any downsides to it, or is it all pretty much positive,
Um,
other than the human aspect?
yeah, one downside, intensive early stalking may be, if you have higher stalking rates, it may be more damaging to native bird populations, like the prairie chicken.
Mhm.
But it's pretty much superior in all other aspects, including, since you're allowing the landscape to build that fuel. When you come in and burn it in the spring, early spring, you have a lot more dead material, and so you get a better burn, and you can kill more invasive species like cedar trees. So woody encroachment's a big deal in native rangelands, which we'll talk about later. Cool. Any questions, guys? Okay. So the other thing that this scenario does not consider is market timing. So market timing is a very important thing. So this tells you here on the x-axis we have months. So January is month 1, December is month 12. Red lines are heifers, blue lines are steers. Each panel is a 50-pound increment, and then these are the average price per hundredweight for these weight increments from 2019 to 2024. So this scenario we just went through with intensive early stalking and season long stalking does not consider uh, price seasonality. Okay. So in that intensive early stalking, we're selling a 750-pound steer in March. No, that's not right. July. Okay. So if we look at July, which is 750-pound steer, you can see that this is a peak in that dollar per hundredweight in terms of price seasonality, compared to selling an 824-pound steer in October, right? Which is kind of more of a lower end of that price range that you can expect to sell those animals. So does that make sense, guys? So that's one of the value of different stalker scenarios, is playing around with this market timing, where we have this real seasonal change in price, which, as we've discussed previously, is largely driven by most calves are born in the spring and weaned in the fall. So we have most of our feeder supply there in the fall. So if we do a season long stocking situation, we're buying animals here at this same time here around May, okay, but we're selling them heavier here around October. Okay. So something else to consider with stalker situations. All right, real quick, I think we have 12 minutes. So I may touch on this more in depth later. But here we have a closeout from a feedlot in Delaware. So this is from April 2025. No, January 2025. So they purchased these cattle April 2025. See if I can't zoom this in. Okay, purchased these animal April 2025, sold them January 10th, 20, no, excuse me. Bought them April 25th of 24, sold them January 10th of 25. They purchased 165 head. They sold 163 head. So they had 1.21% death loss. Average days on feed. So they didn't market all these animals at the same time, but on average, they spent 192 days on feed. This is total in weight, total out weight. This is dollar per hundredweight for the feeder cattle they purchased. They purchased 929 pound feeder cattle at $220 per hundredweight, and then they sold them at 1550. So they sold them at 1,548 pounds finished weight. Okay. This is the total amount of dry matter that was fed to those animals. So 690,748 pounds of feed were delivered to these 165 head. They gained a total of 102,220 pounds of weight gain. So this is average feed consumption on an as-fed basis. This is average feed consumption on a dry matter basis. So on average, they ate 21.85 pounds of dry matter per day. And then on average, they gained 3.23 pounds of body weight per day. Okay. So that's a feed conversion. So a dry matter intake per pound of average daily gain of 6.76. Okay. This feed to gain here is on an as-fed basis. Okay. Then average feed cost per head was 559.77. Average dry matter cost per ton was 267 and 42 cents. Then they sold those 1550 pound steers at $184.12 per hundredweight. So let's plug this information in to our feedlot budget. I've got 9 minutes. So I think we can do it. All right. So they purchased them at 222.46. Purchase weight 929. Days on feed was, we'll just say 195. So we'll operate with this feeding period here. Head received was 165. Head sold was 163. Selling price 184.12. So death loss is calculated for us. If I come here, I think I uncover processing. So here we have vet and medicine dollars per head. Here we have processing costs, $18.58 per head. So if I add those together, 0.38 plus 18.58. And then I can come over here and enter in my yardage, which they have a yardage. This feedlot charges 36 cents per head per day in yardage. Okay. Dry matter per head per day. So this group ate 21.85. They gained 3.23 pounds per day. What else do we got here? Their feed cost was 267.42. Okay. Mhm. Death loss, processing, feed to gain, 6.76. Yeah. All right, so we plug all this in. Then I'm going to say 50% of all cattle equity, capital borrowed, and for feed, and then operating costs, all those are 8%. And we're going to give $1 to the beef checkoff. We got that there. Oh, here we go. I added this processing cost, so that's 1858, 0.38. Okay. So with these added assumptions on what I did not know about equity costs or this interest rates and stuff that they borrowed, we are estimating that this closeout would have made $13.50 per head. So I can unclever that. They really made $32.11 per head, which is, in the grand scheme of things, not that much different. Um, I don't think I give you guys an example where you use this spreadsheet, but it functions pretty similarly uh, to the new past, except we enter in that cattle selling price instead of calculating it based off that 750-pound body weight and uh, what's the other thing? Expected value gain. So I know that was really quick, but we're running out of time. Does anybody have any questions on this feedlot budget? We will use this in that example or that case study report number 2, and then you'll present on it. But if we come to it and you guys have more questions, we can work through it at a later time. Okay, last things. I just gave another example of a question that you could be asked or will be asked on your exam 1. So if you're given a Kansas State focus on feedlot report and I give you this additional information, I will ask you to calculate these different things, right? And we went through this in the previous lecture. Here's the math on how to do it. I will give you these equations. On the exam. So you just need to know again how to take the values that are reported in this report and plug them into those equations I give you and calculate these items. Are there any questions? Okay. I will hang around a little later, but you guys are welcome to go. I will post the assignment on Canvas right now.
Will you also post the Zoom meeting to where if we need to go back and get like see how you did stuff or
Yep,
okay.
absolutely.
All right.
If I remember to record it.
You did. I think you started it.
Sweet.